My ex, who swore he never wanted kids, is now a single dad. What changed? When I, 37 female, was 23, I was dating a man I loved. He'd proposed to me, and we were planning a life together. One night, we were having a conversation and I'd brought up that I wanted 4 kids at the time. He said that was too many, and he really didn't want any kids but would agree to one for me. However, he wanted to give it a very specific name if we had a boy. If it was a girl, she would be completely my responsibility. I sat on that for a few days and decided that I wasn't willing to agree to those terms. We broke up and went our separate ways. I ended up moving to a new state within weeks of the breakup. About a month after I moved, I found out I was pregnant. A part of me thought maybe I should go back and make the relationship work. I called him twice and left messages saying it was important that he call me back. I called his sister and told her to please have him call me, and, as a last resort, sent him an email. 2 weeks in and I hadn't heard anything. I knew I wasn't in a place to care for a child alone, so I had my sister take me to a clinic. Since then I've married and had 3 kids, a tween, a young grammar schooler, and a toddler. While I wonder how things would have been different if I hadn't ended the pregnancy, I'm happy with life. One of my best friends from the state I left is getting married, and last weekend I flew out for dress shopping. While we were at lunch on Saturday, we ran into my ex. He had a toddler little girl with him. We talked and everything was fine. I asked if the little girl was his sister's daughter and he said no, it was his. I learned that he dated someone for a few months and she became pregnant. She decided to keep the baby, and when the little girl was a few months old, she dropped her off and never came back. I was teetering between shock and empathetic. My friend, however, started laughing. When she finally stopped, she said, "That's crazy, all things considered." My heart sank when I realized what she was laughing about. I shook my head at her and mouthed, "Stop." She either didn't notice or didn't care, because the next thing she said was, "You break my friend's heart." So she moves across the country and terminates her pregnancy and has to start a new life alone, and then you turn around and get landed with the exact thing you didn't want. That's karma for you. My jaw dropped. I couldn't believe she not only shared that information with him without talking to me, but also did it flippantly. I couldn't sit there. I put $20 on the table and stood to leave. She asked where I was going and I said, "Home. There's no reason for me to be here. We're not friends and I won't be coming to your wedding." I made it to the car I rented before I started to cry. That was the end of a nearly 30-year friendship. I went back to my hotel and called my husband. He was just as shocked as I was. He knew about the past. He was shocked at my friend's behavior. A little while later I got a message from my ex asking if we could meet. I didn't feel like going out, so I told him what hotel I was at. He brought food from one of my favorite restaurants and we talked a while. He then asked why I'd gotten so upset at lunch, and I told him everything. He was quiet, and then he was mad. He said it was wrong for me to have ended it knowing that he had agreed to have 1 kid with me. I was an idiot for not trying harder to get a hold of him, and I should have flown back and talked to him in person. He said that after his daughter was born his thoughts changed about having kids, and if he'd known about our baby, then things could have been different. I told him I tried to contact him multiple times and waited 2 weeks for him to call back, but he didn't. The lack of response told me he wasn't interested in talking to me. Then he said he'd always regretted losing me, but now that he knows how big of an idiot I am, it doesn't bother him anymore. Am I the idiot? Should I have tried harder to get a hold of him? Oh honey, he knew. He knew all the time. Why would you try so hard to contact him? He knew the reason why and chose not to respond. Not the idiot, and your friend is the idiot, and you dodged a million bullets by dumping a man who could say any daughter of his was not his responsibility. That's not a man to have any kids with. However, his karma worked out. He blames everyone but himself. The worst kind of person. Sorry, I had to reread the last portion of the story. He said you were the idiot. How? If he never called, he's one, and your ex-friend is an idiot too. You did everything right? What more did he want you to do? Get a skywriter? The nonsense about him wanting you to get on a plane to tell him in person. With what money? And that he always regretted losing you was just him trying to rewrite history. He's trying to assuage his guilt by making you the villain. Seeing you and confirming his long-held suspicions means he has to finally confront what a piece of crap he was back then. It's much easier to just blame you. Once an idiot, always an idiot. Hold your head high. You made the only responsible decision you could then, with the resources you had. Give your little ones and your husband a big cuddle when you get home and try to forget this idiot and your crappy friend existed. My wife, 28, and I, 30 male, are expecting our first child together. We know the gender and we've built a list of names we both love and want to consider for our child, but we've not shared the details with anyone else. The sex of our baby, and the name won't be announced until after the baby is here. We don't want any unsolicited opinions on the names we're talking about. We don't want people to tell us to honor family members with names, and no judgment to anyone who uses family names. But that's not for us. We also don't want people getting their opinions in on spellings or whether a name works better for a boy versus a girl. We've witnessed debates like that happen around other expectant parents who shared names, and we're not here for any of that nonsense. This brings me to my sister-in-law, 32, who's married to my older brother, 35. She grew up in foster care and wasn't adopted. From what she's talked about, she grew up going to a lot of different foster homes and had a lot of bad experiences in foster care. Some of it is really tragic, too. She asked us a few times what names we were considering, and we told her we were not discussing names with anyone but each other. She'd let it go in the moment and bring it up again. She brought it up again a week ago. This time, instead of letting it go, she pushed. First it was, I really want to know. And then it was, this isn't a state secret. And then it was followed by, I'm hurt you don't want to share with me. I asked why she was hurt when she wasn't alone and was not being told. I made sure she knew nobody else was told the names we were considering, but she said that given her history in foster care, she expected us to run the names we were considering by her to make sure none were particularly traumatic for her or brought bad memories. My brother said we could tell her. But she didn't have to tell him. I told them if she had a name or two that were particularly triggering, we would consider that, but we were not letting it go through our whole list to decide what we could or couldn't use. She argued that I wasn't being compassionate. I told her she was asking for too much. My brother told me she was just asking for some understanding, and I replied that it was exactly why I said she could tell us names that were triggering for her. They told me that could be a long list. I told her she would surely know names that cause a lot of bad memories to occur. My brother told me I could be more open to making it work. I'm being too strict. And wouldn't I rather know now than when my baby is here? Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You offered a very reasonable compromise. If she doesn't want to tell you the most triggering names for your consideration, then this is completely her problem. You owe her absolutely nothing. I would not be giving her my list of potential names, as it smacks of giving her way too much control over something that's actually none of her business and which she is not entitled to have any say over. Are your brother and sister-in-law planning children? My cynical mind is exploring the possibility that your sister-in-law wants to check you're not going to use any name she wants to use, or that she wants to steal your choices by claiming them as trigger names. You won't play her game, so I'm about 99.9% certain that no matter what you call your child, she's going to say it's a trigger name just to cause problems. 3 years ago, my wife and I had our first child, the first baby in the family. My sister always looked like she wouldn't have kids, but she did have her dog, a massive Labrador. I'm a big fan of the dog, but my wife was understandably a little nervous, and while she would tolerate the dog at family events pre-baby, when our child was born, she didn't want the dog around our child. Nothing was ever said to my sister, and she did visit us occasionally without the dog. Still, I think she caught on that there were family meetups that she was no longer invited to, as we didn't want the dog around our child. Fast forward a while, and now my sister has a baby of her own. We want the cousins to grow up close, but every time we offer to visit, she says we have to leave our child behind because she doesn't want the toddler around her baby. Our child is too rough, and they might bring germs in from the nursery. Just to be clear, this baby is around the massive dog all day, so I don't think germs are really an issue. It does feel like she's playing tit for tat. Or am I just being paranoid? I don't think we were wrong protecting our baby from her dog, so I'm struggling now to see how she's taking the moral high ground. You are the idiot. Instead of talking to your sister about your fears and working on a solution, did you just stop including her? That alone makes both of you giant idiots. Your wife is unreasonably scared of your sister's pet. There wasn't even an attempt to see how things would be. Of course your sister would take that personally. What the heck, dude? You and your wife need to go to her and tell her how ridiculously you handle things with your first child, and that you want to try and make things right. Then, do what she asks. And a Labrador of all things. They're huge teddy bear dogs, deeply affectionate, loving, and caring for people in general. But you give the average lab a kid? They're in heaven. If I were to get a new dog at the same time as having a baby, it would 100% be a lab. The germs from the nursery are a valid concern, by the way. Dogs don't infect people in general, but children bring lots of germs back from the nursery and school. You're all ridiculous. If I had a large dog, I would not assume I could just bring the dog to gatherings with children. Several of my families have large dogs and always ask if they can bring their dogs to family events. It isn't just assumed they can, but you also should have been honest about your concerns about the dog instead of being passive and just not inviting your sister to gatherings. In my opinion, everyone's the idiot here. My little sister, a tween, and I, 19, recently started moving rooms. As I was moving into my new room, my old room, my little sister's new room, wasn't quite empty yet, and she started to move in, mostly in my closet. While I was emptying the closet, she found my baptism dress. Now, I am very religious. I was baptized when I was pre-tween and the dress no longer fit me. In fact, my little sister was also getting baptized a few years ago and the dress fit her then, but I requested she didn't wear it because, well, it's mine. I only wore it the week I got baptized. I would only ever want my daughter to wear it if I ever have a daughter. Now she asked to wear it. I said no. She got upset and said that the dress didn't even fit me. She also said that she would look so cute in it. I said no again, that the dress was mine and I didn't want her wearing it. She got angry and left the room. I still had things to put away in my room, so I grabbed the rest of my books and went to my Buxendanums. A few minutes later, I heard a knock on the door. I looked over, and when she opened the door, she was wearing the dress. This wasn't even that long later. She must have instantly put it on once I left the room because of how quickly she knocked on the door. She started twirling around and said, "See, I look cute?" I must admit, although I don't want to, I screamed at her to take it off now. She seemed surprised and said, "Why?" I screamed, "That's my baptism dress. I didn't want you to wear it." She immediately took it off and gave it back to me. She apologized and said, "I'm sorry, I didn't know it was your baptism dress." I told her it didn't matter. I didn't accept her apology, and that she shouldn't have worn it anyway. She got angry again and huffed that I should have told her, and that she wouldn't have worn it if I told her. Now she got angry and started crying and went to our mom. Mom told me to forgive her because while it happened, it wouldn't happen again and there was no point in causing contention in the household. I get that, and I believe that we need to turn the other cheek and such, but I also believe that she needs to be held accountable because she does these things frequently. I'll leave things on the table and find them messed with, used, or broken. When I confronted her, she said that I shouldn't have left them on the table, which is what our parents say. Though they do tell her not to mess with them, she receives no punishment. I tried to tell her that I was not forgiving her because she wore the dress exactly, but because she overstepped a boundary I had previously set in. That while she said she's constantly sorry, she always does it again and again. So, am I the idiot and holding a pointless grudge? Your sister was wrong, you have a right to be upset. But you sound very immature at 19 to be this raging over a dress that wasn't ruined by a tween who is, yes, still learning impulse control. Tell her you're upset with her for wearing it. Explain no means no and move on. This is not an unforgivable act which makes you the idiot. Disagree. She's a tween and I assume not mentally deficient. She should have learned what no means at least 5 years ago. She was very clearly told several times that the owner did not want her wearing it, period. Not, well, okay, as long as she looks cute in it, but no. If she regularly has this problem, OP should suggest behavioral therapy to the parents because a tween shouldn't have a problem understanding clear boundaries given only seconds earlier. Not the idiot. It doesn't matter why you didn't want her to wear the dress. You told her no and she deliberately went against that. Kids need to learn to respect boundaries and your parents are doing a pretty bad job of teaching her how to do that. My dad and his wife are having a baby together, but my dad will be out of town for work around the time the baby comes. He's scheduled to be gone for 3 weeks and his boss won't let someone take his place, so my dad's wife decided I, nearly adult female, could be her birthing partner. Only I don't want to be. I don't even want to be left alone with her for 3 weeks. I don't like her. I'm probably too hard on her because she put her foot in her mouth a lot when I first met her and when she first moved in, especially when it came to my relationship with other family members, but I tolerate her existence in the house for my dad. However, I'm not excited about the baby and supporting her. It's not something I could say I would do well. It's not like I care about her. She didn't expect me to say no and told me it would be so cool to see my baby sibling born and have a great bonding experience. I told her I didn't want to bond with her and she cried. To clarify the stuff about her putting her foot in her mouth a lot. My mom died when I was a tween. My parents had me young and stayed together until I was pretty tween. They were unfaithful to each other a lot. She would ask dad and his side about mom being unfaithful where I could hear, and you'd think my mom was the only one who was unfaithful the way she'd ask. My name is from a different culture, my mom's culture, but she assumed that my parents tried to be different and she commented on it the first time we'd spent an entire day together. I corrected her. And then she said it was odd to use a name from the mother's culture instead of the father's. Then she stopped herself. I was in dance classes then, and we were doing a Mother's Day dance with moms. I invited my grandma, paternal, and she assumed I was embarrassed to be going with her, and told her I wanted to go with her instead. That wasn't true. But by the time I found out, Grandma had other plans, and couldn't make it, so I didn't go. After she and Dad got married, she swapped out some photos I had of Mom in there with some different ones of Mom, and she did it without asking me or Dad, all because they were photos of when Mom was sick. But they were happy memory photos. She got angry at my aunt, paternal, and told her to stop talking about when my parents were together, because they weren't happy memories. She didn't even apologize when I told her I'd ask. She also invited her along to some days out with my aunts. Paternal aunt and maternal aunt came together for me, and would give me my girl time and didn't even bring money and expected my paternal aunt to pay. Anyway, the whole birthing partner thing is now a sore issue and she told me I can't let her do this alone and family needs to stick together. I'm almost an adult, etc. She even yelled a little when I told her I didn't want to help her. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Tell her to hire a midwife or doula. That's literally their job. A young adult, especially one who doesn't like her, is going to be completely useless in the delivery room. It's a huge red flag that she has 0 adults in her life she can ask for, and apparently no one at all likes her enough to help. Your dad's boss is an idiot, and so is your dad for not finding a way to be at the birth of his child. I don't think she fully realizes that you're still going to be you whether she's giving birth or not. A lot of pregnant women get deluded into thinking that their new baby will fix everything, and that the beauty of the moment will somehow change their minds about her, that somehow this baby will make you three family. You never ask for this woman or this baby to be in your life, and she needs to understand and respect that if she genuinely wants to get anywhere positive with you,